Hey guys, Aaron Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing you another exciting podcast. Tonight we're going to go to the great state of Missouri. We're going to talk to Mr. Aaron Stanphil. Aaron got a second place finish last year in the BFL Ozark Division tournament on Table Rock Lake. So very, very excited to talk to Aaron. He's going to give us a little insight of his tournament last year, what he predicts for this year. Based on weather patterns and going back on history, I think that the tournament and the lake is going to be a little bit different this year. So very interested to talk to Aaron. Before we get started, as always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. Also, check us out on Facebook and Instagram. We're Revital Outdoors. And if you've never heard of Revital Outdoors, we're a premium CBD company. We make premium CBD products for all the outdoor enthusiasts out there. And we're THC free, made right here in America. You can purchase our products directly off of our website. And if you're interested in a pro staff opportunity, make sure you fill out that application on the pro staff tab. And one final note before we get Aaron in, this is Red Crest week. Revital Outdoors will be at Red Crest 2022 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, not too far away from Table Rock in the Branson, Missouri area. So if anglers watching this want to have a great family-oriented event, meet a lot of professional anglers, get deals on some tackle, meet all of the people that represent all the great brands with Major League Fishing, be sure to come over to Tulsa on that Friday through Sunday. It's going to be a great event, family-oriented event, a lot of great stuff happening. Revital Outdoors is booth 2214. We're going to have a lot of great stuff happening, including a $500 giveaway and a show special on all of our products in the booth. So that being said, let's go ahead and bring him in, Mr. Aaron Stanphil. How you doing this evening, bud?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, thank you for coming on with the podcast, man. I'm really honored to talk to another Ozark angler. I grew up in Oklahoma, so I know a little bit about Table Rock Lake. It's a very, very fun lake. Absolutely gin clear, full of big smallmouth and spotted bass. So, let's just get right into it, Aaron. Second place finish last year in 2021. Tell us a little bit about your history on Table Rock and why you're so successful on it.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Green Forest, Arkansas, just about 30 minutes from there. So my dad fished it since the 1960s. So he drugged me and my brother out there almost every weekend. And that's just what we did. We grew up fishing the lake from one end to the other. So been out there since I was a kid.
Okay, good for you. Good for you. So, well, tell us a little bit about your tournament last year. Again, runner-up position in that event. What were you able to kind of piece together, and what were some of the things that you were successful on from last year?
Yeah, last year, the tournament was a couple weeks later, and fish were quite a bit farther ahead than they are now. Lots of fish were spawning last year, and I sight fished all of them last year. They were a lot of fish pulled up. Not going to be the case this year. Water temperatures are around 50 for the most part, give or take, depending on where you're at. And fish are way behind. There's a lot of fish that's pulled up shallow this year. I was on the lake a little bit last week, fished a tournament up there on Saturday. There's a lot of fish pulled up shallow. A lot of guys are catching them shallow, but the sight fishing is not going to be, at least I don't think it's going to come into play this year whatsoever.
Okay. Well, when you say that to me, it's going to be a very heavy pre-spawn pattern. That means a lot of anglers in my mind are going to be catching all three species in their bag. You could potentially see a lot of anglers with largemouth, spotted bass, and the smallmouth in there, even some mean mouth, some mixtures in there. So that's going to be really interesting. And when I think about pre-spawn fishing in Table Rock, I think about either going up or down into the Dirty River, that flows into Arkansas, and fishing the dirty water with like a red crankbait, or stand in that clear water throwing like a wigglewort, jerkbait, Alabama rig. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that there's going to be fish caught from one end of the lake to the other. And that's what's so awesome about Table Rock is it doesn't matter where you stop the boat, you're around them. And there'll be a lot of ways to catch them. I think that obviously the river arms will have some color, and you can catch them up there really good, probably doing several different things. The main lake's still really, really clear. The Long Creek arm up to the dam has got a little bit of color, but from Indian Point all the way to Baxter's pretty clear right now. So I have not been in the white. I think the primary ways to catch them will be a jerkbait, like a Spro mixed stick, or like a Spro rock crawler, RK55 or a wigglewort. I think there'll be a bunch of fish probably be able to caught on like a small swim bait, a 3.5 inch swim bait, 1/4 ounce jig head, anything off of windblown point, just your standard stuff like that. The Alabama rig will probably come into play. There'll probably still be several fish that'll also be for that. Anytime that comes into play, lots of guys are doing that. So Um,
Okay.
There'll be a lot of ways to catch them, I think.
Right, right. You know, I fished a tournament on Table Rock like a college event years ago, and I say years ago, it was about 6 years ago, and there was a team there from Missouri. I think it was Drury College that did really, really well throwing little tiny, almost like crappie-sized jigging spoons in extremely deep water. You think
Yeah.
that's going to be a factor this year? Or?
There's still going to be a lot of fish that are out deep. I think that you can probably go out there and catch them on a Demiki rig or a spoon or something like that. But I don't think it's going to come into play as far as drawing a check. Now, I may be wrong, but I think the guys that'll be in the check line are guys that'll fish in that mid depth range, 25 and in for sure. I do know that there's some fish out there deep. I caught some deep last week, especially if it slicks off in high sun, bright bluebird skies. There's always fish that are out deep at Table Rock.
Absolutely. So, what do you think weight wise this year it's going to take?
This weekend, Anglers in Action was on Saturday. It took 22 and a half. I don't think it'll take that much, but I could be wrong. I think it'll probably take 20 or 21 pounds.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you kind of check, I'm thinking maybe what, 14, 15?
I would think so. 14. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. So before I let you go, one last question. What about a co-angler watching this? Co-angler fishing on Table Rock Lake can be a challenge, especially for an angler that's parallel in that bank. Some co-anglers think that limits their options. I personally believe that it expands their options. What's your thoughts on maybe some baits or some techniques that co-anglers can think about, depending on their draw, of course, that they can be successful this weekend with?
Last year I had a tough couple of different guys that drew me last year, and I felt terrible because it was totally a sight fishing deal. And you pulling on a fish and you power pole down and you fish him and you catch him, and your co-angler really has a tough time, and it's not super fair to them. And I hate that. I always like for the guy in the back of the boat to have a good time, but this year that's not going to be the case. If I was a co-angler this year, I would try to do something a little bit different than the guy in the front of the boat's doing. And I think a lot of guys are going to be going down the bank with a stick bait or a crankbait. I would probably throw, like I said, a small swim bait on a spinning rod, 8-pound test fluorocarbon, 1/4 ounce jig head, like a Big Bite Pro Swimmer, something like that. Or maybe even like just a little small Ned rig, maybe a shaky head worm, something like that. There's just so many bass in Table Rock Lake, and there's always bass up there that'll bite anything in the finesse presentation whatsoever. I just would not try to do what my pro's doing. Even if he's catching them, do something a little bit different.
Don't do that. Don't do that. So, I want to give a big shout out and a tip to all the co-anglers that are watching this, getting ready to fish on Table Rock. Finesse presentation is dominant this time of year in a clear water, high water impoundment like Table Rock. Going down the bank, depending on who you draw, boaters will go back for the baits that maybe they're not. Maybe you get like the chance of the 3 or something like that. Take plenty of shaky heads, plenty of Ned rigs, rig up a bunch of them the night before. Guys, they're very, very cheap to go buy. You can break them off, retie real quick. If you've got plenty of them already rigged, it just makes the day go by quicker. And truthfully, instead of having to have that boater go back every time, if he's covering water, that expands your opportunity as well. So,
you can turn around and on the other side of the boat, always at Table Rock Lake, and just throw out there in the middle of nowhere with a swim bait or a Ned rig and get a bite. And that's a great advice to have several of them tied up. They're not too expensive. Break them off, tie on another one. And I would be super confident as a co-angler catching 12 or 13 pounds, maybe even more on a swim bait or a Ned rig this in a couple of weeks. So
absolutely. I think you can literally throw a swim bait all day long. You can probably catch your 5 pretty quick in the morning, especially if you draw a guy throwing that A rig or that jerk bait, and then just keep it bumping the bottom. Maybe upsize the bait just a little bit. Instead of going from a 3.8, go to a 4.2 or 4.3. Try to upsize your crew a little bit. But if a co-angler has 12, 13 pounds, that's going to be hardware at the end of the day. I can just tell you right now on Table Rock, they're going to walk away with some hardware. So, well, Aaron, I really appreciate you coming on to our podcast. Before we let you go, I know you got a lot of a strong history as a tournament angler there in the state of Missouri, and anybody that supports you, anybody you want to give a shout out or thank you to, your family, sponsors, anybody like that, we just want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. AFCO is just great. What they've done for all the guys, all their clothing is just fantastic. And AFCO has been a big help for me. Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite, Sunline, Pro Guide batteries. All those guys have just been super, super good. The whole Outdoor Brands team is fantastic. And what they do for all of us is just incredible. So.
Absolutely. So, well, Aaron, thank you for coming on to our podcast again. Good luck to you this year. We hope to have you back on because that usually means good news. When we have the follow-up podcast, that usually means your 2022 campaign is going well. So thank you for coming on board. Good luck to you the rest of this year. Good luck to all the anglers fishing the BFL Ozark division and all the anglers across the board fishing in 2022 with Major League Fishing. So again, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel before you get off here. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. Again, we've been talking to Mr. Aaron Stanphil, second place angler from the BFL Ozark division on Table Rock Lake. So Aaron, thank you again for coming on board. From all of us at Revital Outdoors, thank you for tuning into this podcast. Be safe out there. God bless. And we'll talk to everyone very, very soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.